It is a cold, dark night on February 9, 2004. A 21-year-old nursing student crashes her car on a quiet mountain road, and police arrive less than 10 minutes later, but she is gone. She's gone without a trace. No footprints, no phone, no signs of a struggle. For 20 years, one question has haunted everyone who's looked into this case. How does a person vanish into thin air within minutes? To this day, the case of Maura Murray remains one of the most puzzling missing persons investigations in American history. Was it a planned disappearance, an accident, or something far more sinister? Let's take a closer look at the mystery that's captivated internet sleuths, experts, and investigators for nearly 2 decades. This is the story of Maura Murray. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one of the most perplexing and enduring missing cases of 21st century. It's a case that has captivated and frustrated people for years, with a timeline full of strange events and conflicting details. What we know for sure is that on February 9, 2004, a promising 21-year-old student seemingly walked away from a minor car accident and was never seen again. But to understand this mystery, we can't just start at the crash site. We have to go back in time and look at the days leading up to Maura's final, fateful journey. Maura was a junior nursing student at the University of Massachusetts. She was a dedicated student, an accomplished track athlete, and had a very promising future. But in the days leading up to her disappearance, things in her life were a little complicated. On Thursday, February 5th, 3 days before the crash, Maura was at her on-campus job when she received a phone call. According to her supervisor, she visibly became distraught and began crying. When she was asked what's wrong, she said, "My sister," and was so upset that she had to be walked back to her dorm. The contents of that phone call remain a mystery. Later, it was revealed that her older sister, Kathleen, had checked herself into rehab for alcohol abuse. But the exact timing of the phone call in relation to Maura's reaction is a point of debate. 2 days later, on Saturday, February 7th, 2 days before the crash, Maura's father, Fred Murray, drove up to visit her. They went out for dinner and then used Fred's new Toyota Corolla to drive around looking for a car for Maura. That same night, Maura drove the Corolla and crashed it into a guardrail. It caused about $10,000 worth of damage, but the police report noted no mention of alcohol. However, Fred would later say that the damage was so bad that she was probably a little out of it. She got a ride back to her dorm with her father, and the car was towed later by AAA. This accident and the debt it created weighed heavily on her as it would to any other college student. On Sunday, February 8th, a day before, Maura spent time with her father at a motel. They talked about the accident, and he reassured her that everything would be just fine and he would handle the insurance claim. He left her with his new car, her black Saturn, and headed back home. Maura then spent the rest of the day with her boyfriend, Bill Roche. By Monday, February 9th, things took an even stranger turn. Maura emailed her professors and her work supervisor claiming she needed to take a week off to attend a family funeral. A funeral that, according to her family, never existed. She then packed some clothes, her toiletries, her books, and her favorite stuffed monkey into her car. She left behind her cell phone and her credit cards. At 3:15 p.m., surveillance footage captured her withdrawing $280 from an ATM. It was almost all the money that she had. She then drove to a liquor store where she purchased Kahlua, a box of wine, and a bottle of vodka. The question that has haunted this case ever since is why? Was she going on a trip? Was she planning to run away? Or something else that was going on? At this point, we know Maura left Massachusetts around 4 p.m. Her destination was unknown to anyone, but it appears she was heading towards the White Mountains in New Hampshire. Just over 3 hours later, at around 7:27 p.m., a resident of Haverhill, New Hampshire, named Faith Westman called 911 to report a car accident. She said she saw a black Saturn in a snowbank on Route 112 with a person standing outside of it. Moments later, a school bus driver named Butch Atwood, who lived just across the street, drove past the crash site. He stopped and offered Maura help, but she was shaken. According to him, she refused any help, saying she had already called AAA. Atwood insisted on calling the police for her, but she told him not to. She was described as being a bit flustered, but not appearing intoxicated. The area where the accident took place was very remote and has limited cell service, so there was no way she had called AAA. Atwood drove home and felt that something was off, so he still called 911 from his house around 7:42 p.m. Haverhill police officer Cecil Smith was dispatched to the scene. He arrived at 7:46 p.m., but by the time he got there, Maura was long gone. All he found was a black Saturn, its windshield was cracked, and the airbags were deployed. The car was locked. Inside, he found a box of wine on the passenger seat, an uncorked bottle of vodka, and what looked like a bloody substance on the driver's side door and the ceiling. He also found the stuffed monkey and some car accident reports that had been given to Maura a couple of days before. But Maura, her keys, her wallet, and the alcohol she had bought were nowhere to be found. 48 hours later, her father Fred arrives at the crash site. He goes to the police and asks where the search was, only to find out that there was no search party, so Fred decides to do his own search. At this point, the family is already frustrated because it has been 48 hours and the police did not treat this as a missing persons case. The family's frustration is fair because everyone knows that the first 48 hours are crucial to the investigation, especially in Maura's case. The time she disappeared, she was drunk. The airbags were deployed, meaning she may have hit her head and could have had a concussion. Only to make matters worse, there was 2 feet of snow all around. So the family wondered, why did the police not do more that night knowing she could be in trouble? Eventually, the police do authorize a search of the abandoned area. No footprints were found. Scent dogs were later brought in, and the dogs picked up Maura's scent that would disappear only 100 meters down the road. This is where the case explodes. Conflicting witness statements, strange coincidences, and unanswered questions all lead nowhere. Over the years, countless theories have emerged, but none of them have been proven, so let's break down the most prominent theories that have surfaced. Theory number 1. She was picked up by a Good Samaritan. The most common theory is that Maura, frightened by the police arriving and possibly concerned about a DUI, decided to walk away from the scene. It was a cold night, she was likely in a shock, and she was on a remote road. It's plausible that someone driving by offered her a ride and she accepted. The problem, however, is that if a person was a Good Samaritan, why didn't they come forward? Did something happen to her in that car? Was she victim of foul play? There's also a tandem driver theory, which suggests Maura wasn't alone. She was traveling with someone in another car, and when her car crashed, they simply picked her up and drove away. This would explain how she vanished so quickly. But if so, who was this person? And why haven't they come forward? This was a key consideration in the investigation. Theory number 2. She got lost in the woods and died of exposure. Given the crash site's proximity to the wilderness, some believe Maura, disoriented and perhaps under the influence of alcohol, wandered into the woods and succumbed to hypothermia. She was an avid hiker and knew the outdoors, but the conditions were harsh. However, extensive searches by professional search teams, including K9 units, have never found a trace of her. No footprints leading into the woods, and no remains. Theory number 3, she staged her own disappearance. Maura's actions leading up to that day, the fake family funeral email, the packed car, the withdrawal of all of her money, all point to a young woman who wanted to get away. Could she have been trying to start a new life? Some believe she wanted to escape the stress of her academic life, the legal issues from a previous credit card fraud incident that she had, and the recent car accidents. But if she did, why has she never contacted her family, whom she was very close to? It's been over 2 decades and there has been no sign of her, no contact, no sightings. This case is not just about these theories. It's about the details that just don't add up. Why did Maura buy so much alcohol? Was the bloody substance in her car actually blood? What about a sighting by a local contractor who said he saw a young woman matching Maura's description walking a few miles east of the crash site about 30 minutes later? The sighting, however, was not reported until months later and has been debated ever since. The Maura Murray case is a puzzle. There are no easy answers. It's a tragedy that has left a family in agony and a community with a permanent question mark hanging over it. Law enforcement has faced criticism for their initial handling of the case, and armchair detectives have generated hundreds of thousands of hours of content trying to solve it. But despite all the attention, all the podcasts, all the documents, we are no closer to the truth. I want to say that a staged disappearance, while you never know, seems like a far-fetched to me. As somebody with vast experience with university life, the withdrawing of money, the accident, drinking, stress, it just seems nothing new to me. This is something I could see myself doing. If I had a hard week, withdraw my money, grab some alcohol, maybe do a night out. I could see myself and many of my colleagues in that situation. So personally, I lead towards foul play. The fact that the scent dogs could not pick her scent up after just 100 meters stands out to me. But I want to know your thoughts. What do you think happened to Maura Murray? Was it a simple accident that turned into a tragic, fatal walk? Was she a victim of a crime? Or did she, for reasons we may never understand, choose to disappear? This is a case that needs to be kept alive. Someone, somewhere out there knows something. Before I end today's video, an important factor that I want to bring some attention to is the website that her family launched. It's called wauramurraymissing.org. Due to the nature of my channel, I cannot go into all of the details, but I highly encourage you to check out the website because it goes into every detail related to this case. And if anyone has information out there, the details may help solve the case. Please do check out their website called wauramurraymissing.org. This is True Crime and More, and thank you so much for listening to today's episode.